Hello and welcome to Geekatplay Studio. Before we start our tutorial, we would just like to thank everyone for the great response we got when we released our first tutorials. We were overwhelmed, and happily our servers weren't. It's very encouraging to see so much interest in this, to see how you become successful as well. You know, creativity is one of those things that the more you give, the more you have. So we are excited to give you more. We sit around all the time coming up with new ideas for our tutorials because we believe that the more imagination there is in the world, the better. This tutorial is a very useful one for anyone that wants a more cartoon look to their work. This is about how to create cel-shaded animation, cartoon animation in Vue. In many ways, we look at this application as 3D with all these realistic details and having this dimension, but it is in fact possible, and it isn't really hard to get that drawn cartoon look with cel shading. So for now, we'll look first at how to make a material that is cel shaded. So we'll create a sphere, and if we render the sphere, we'll see that it looks very 3D. What we need to do is we need to open the material to edit, and this is the normal default material. We look and go to edit function, and inside the edit function, let's just position these a little bit to work with, and we'll remove the constant, and let's add up here an input node, and we'll just connect this input node to our filter. By default, the input node will say angle of incidence, and let's leave it this way. On the filter, what we do is we'll add one more new key point, and we'll just set the key point to 0 right here. Okay? And right now, with the material, we need to change from color map to 2 color output. And now we'll delete the node for alpha and make this 2 colors. Now we edit the color, and we'll just set a black color for this. And all we need to do right now is adjust the threshold a little bit. So now what we have is a small line. It's a black line such as what we have in outlines on cartoons. And that's a great technology that we can use this because it's so much faster than hand drawing, but it's still very good and necessary experience to draw by hand, but this helps us do it much faster. So here what we need to do is go to highlights, and let's just remove all the highlighting, and we'll go to effects, and right here it still has some shading, so we need to reduce our diffuse to 0, and we'll set the contrast to hard, and we'll give back some colors by increasing the luminosity and ambience. If you want, you can add back the diffuse a little, and you'll get this kind of a shadow. In some cases, you almost need to adjust depending on your material or the effect you want. But overall, this 34, 71, 14, 100 will give us the look of a cartoon. Right now, we render the sphere again. We can see that it does look cel shaded. So for our environment, let's do it this way. Let's go to our atmosphere editor, and let's go to the standard model. And you know, it just doesn't need to be too sophisticated for rendering, and it is that makes it efficient because reducing it to the standard model makes it fast. And we'll reduce the ambient light a little more in this case. And the sky, we need to set everything to minimum. If you want, you can leave the map with these colors or to the colors you want, and add, you don't need any fog or haze. Okay. And we can actually set the final preview to a bigger one because we have so few details to work with. It will just come up really fast. And see, it looks very flat here. And now we need to see how it's going to look on a more complicated object. So let's just delete this sphere and let's load some objects, and we'll load this model of a robot. This model is not rigged, but it has its joint set, so it's easy to manipulate the head or the arms, so you can actually take and move the arms. And so that's just the pivot points that are set for this model. We can play around with the legs and just do a lot of fun things. This model is available on our website, and we'll be releasing new models every week, and they'll always be free for the first week. So now we'll change the material, and I already pre-created some cel shaded materials like we did before, and you can maybe try and do these by yourself and play around with them. And we'll just add these to our image. Here. There we go. Let's maybe drop them down, and like I said, you can, like with everything, you can play around with this a little bit. You might like something, how it looks. And gives it a flatter look. It really depends on what you want it to look like. Edit the function, and let's right here increase the black surrounding it a little bit to see that line better. And there you go. There's our cel shaded robots. So a couple of extra tips with the animation. And let's move the camera here. Now, we like to move the camera to the front or the left or right, or to do any motion with the camera, like going around the objects or such. But this kind of gives it away that our object is 3D animation rather than 2D cartoon. And it doesn't look so good. And another thing when you create animation, by default you can go 24 or 25 frames, and 24 is film, but I recommend that you go down quite a bit, like to 15 frames for this. It will make it a little bit choppier, so it looks a little more like a drawn animation. And we'll go ahead and we'll render this to see what it looks like. And you'll find that this is a very fast render because it doesn't need to process a lot of stuff. So now let's see what we have with our finished render. And here's our animation. And thank you for watching this tutorial. If you have any questions for extra resources, or if maybe you want to see more tutorials, please visit us at www.geekatplay.com.